Hi guys, thank you very much, Sandy, for introducing me. My name is Zack Varkaris, and I am the founder and scientific director of Austin Biotec. So today I'm talking about the pivotal role of ovarian rejuvenation and longevity. So my journey started in this in 2017. I was a new father discovering the joys of fatherhood and working in the financial industry and trying to find ways to pay for my new family. And I had a client, and she was talking about her investment propositions, and also that she wanted to have another child at the age of 46 years old. And she was looking at areas of rejuvenation for her ovaries, which, piqued my interest because my background had been working on skin rejuvenation products from algae. And it struck me that ovaries and skin had very similar cellular properties. And so I followed it up. And to cut a long story short, 3 months later, I decided to quit my job and join this team on a clinical trial using something called PRP, platelet-rich plasma, for ovarian rejuvenation. So that was my role into this nearly 6 years ago now. And I have a question to ask you that I want you to think about, which is, what is currently the most effective way to extend your life? Think about that. The most effective protocol that there is. And studies have shown that delaying menopause, I think I might be able to have a screenshot. Can I screenshot? No, I can't. Studies have shown that delaying menopause by 5 years gives an extra 11 years of life. Menopause, therefore, is a rate-determining step in life expectancy. So it stands to reason that if you could delay it, it would, by definition, be a way to extend your life, but also has some hidden benefits. So aging, as we know, has two schools of thought, right? The first school of thought is that you have pre-programmed aging. We start off as kids, we go into puberty, we start going into reproduction, and then we go into menopause. And so we're basically designed to go from childhood to adulthood to old age and then die. Then we have something called the maintenance of the body, which is maintaining those systems. If something goes wrong with your joints, you have to restructure it. And then you can, I think we have the ability to share the screen. Yes, we do. Fantastic. Okay, we can share the screen. Brilliant. Let's see if we can see that, if we can do that. Right, can you see that? Yeah, hopefully everyone can see that. Fantastic. So we have maintenance of the body, and the maintenance of the body is that if something goes wrong with your joints, you fix it, you mix it up. But we have the belief that there is something called a hybrid system. And the hybrid system is that you can do both. Think of your body as a building, and then there is the land. Now, telomeres that we've all heard about, they keep your integrity of the DNA for 125 years. Well, after 125 years, that's the land. Whatever happens with that building that's on that land, it wipes away. That's it. Let's just keep it simple on that point. So then we have the building itself. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've never known of a building that requires no maintenance for 125 years. So what we did is we had to look at a new system of a way of maintaining a protocol that would give you longevity, right? So we looked not at platelet-rich plasma, which has no significant genetic material. We looked at the real building blocks, stem cells. Now, not at the genetic level, but at the cellular level, and that's very different. So think of it again in the building analogy that you have bricks and pieces of steel and bits of wood for the window frames and so on, and the rubber for the wiring, etc. So that's what stem cells are, and there are different types of stem cells. But we took bone marrow derived stem cells. Now, why did we do that? Well, because we're dealing with grown-ups. We're not dealing with children, and we're not taking stem cells from babies. And because also, unlike popular opinion, BMDSs or bone marrow-derived stem cells actually have great availability for morphing into the correct type of cell should you require it. The question was, did we use autologous or allogenic? And what does that mean? Autologous means your own stem cells, and allogenic means someone else's. So we chose autologous for three main reasons. Because aging is not a genetic issue. Aging is something that happens by default. If you look at the pre-programmed theory, we age as a matter of nature. But it's not because we have default structures in our buildings. But autologous allows us to use three basic areas. And the first thing is that it is very easy. There's no rejection issues. It's cheaper to do the procedure, and morally and legally, it's easier to deal with, which have very important factors going forward. But one of the things that happened was we had some luck. And what we mean by luck is the law of unintended consequences. Because we had something and we're ready to start at the beginning of 2020. So we had the candidates lined up, 35 candidates, everything was great. And next thing that happened is we had that wonderful thing called the lockdown. And the lockdown meant we had these people ready to go, really desperate, and they're freaking out. And we couldn't send them to their clinics. So we're like, what are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? How are we going to keep them happy? How are we going to, all this work we put together for the last year and a half, what are we going to do about it? So we looked at what keeps us in a functional state, like a type of fitness to get, if you're running for a marathon, you run for stamina. If you're running for the 100 meters, you're running for explosive speed. Well, we're running for fertility. So we're looking at cyclical fitness. So we looked at the mental state of the candidates. Some were freaking out, some were very calm. We were trying to work out what this was about. And then we had to look at also the importance of the purpose, why they were doing this. So this was our luck, and it was a lucky break, because what happened from this is we looked at something called the Grateful Eight. Now, the Grateful Eight is the endocrine system. The endocrine system is responsible for all the biological processes of the body. And it's broken down, as we say, the Grateful Eight. The first five are these: blood pressure, sleeping cycles, appetite, body temperature, and heart rate. All of these five are available, and you can fix them with the right diet, the right exercise, the right almost forms of meditation, and also looking at how people do things. So in other words, don't have tubs of ice cream, try and sleep 8 hours a night, etc., etc. The basic stuff. It's very fixable with basic interventions that we can do in everyday life. The sixth one is growth and development. Well, as we're already fully grown, we can't really change that so much. We do have a member of the team now who's working on that with children, but that's different. But we left that aside. Now, the number 7 one, which is very interesting, is metabolism. Now, obviously, I can't see you face to face. I can see you, some of you on the screen there. But how old do you think you are when your metabolism slows down? I mean, put your hands up if you think it's 30 years old. So put your hands up if you think it's 30 when you slow down. If you're not, okay. Your metabolism slows down at 84 years old. From the age of 1 to 84, it stays the same. So in other words, it doesn't really matter. The last one that mattered, though, is sexual function and reproduction, and that is what the protocol was all about. So what we looked at was that, okay, we're going to take the first 5, create a really good protocol to keep everyone happy, and then we had, of course, the development of our new protocol, because we had to wait 6 months whilst the lockdown happened and everyone was spinning in their wheels waiting for this to happen. So we changed this protocol and we came up with something totally new. And we called this Rejuvenation. And Rejuvenation is essentially what it is we take autologous stem cells, we extract them from the top of your hip bone. We take 90 mil, we centrifuge that down, not 60 mil, we centrifuge that down to 9 mil. We add platelet-poor plasma exosomes, and then we apply them to the relevant parts of the organs, okay? And this is the exosome connection. And this exosome connection is a sense of biological chewing gum. What this does is it sticks the stem cell, that building block that we had, to the ovary and allows it to differentiate into the good things that you need to either produce an egg, an oocyte, or to create sort of messenger systems to keep your functioning systems working, your endocrine system working. And so the last bit that we had, that of course we didn't factor in before we had our piece of luck, was the baselining of the candidate. Now it seems so simple to us. We had diet, we had exercise, we had a blood work routine. Obviously, standard blood work you do in any procedure. But the diet, the integral structure, where we created a system that actually improves the health and vitality of the candidate. And so these results then we monitored for 9 months afterwards, which is very, very important, because what we found was we had some amazing results. One of the first bits of results we had was a 61-year-old woman who was 4.5 years menopausal, started menstruating again. Like, what's happening here? How did that happen? And we looked at that and we're like, okay, so how did this happen? So we came up with something not about your lifespan or your health span, but your Freudenspanne. Well, what is Freudenspanne? We defined it as the quantitative effect emotions have on the biomarkers of aging. And so we use this on the reproductive system because we're not machines, and emotions are the biological lubricants that keep the human engine running in peak condition. So it stands to reason that not having your emotions in smooth order will negatively affect the body. And this creates inflammation. We call inflammation the age accelerator, and it will age us in ways that you cannot understand. And so Freudenspanne is a way to quantify that. So we have developed a theory upon that, which is having a fully fit and functioning reproductive system and aesthetic maintenance is the foundations for fully extending life to that 125 years that we were talking about before. So this was very interesting because that person I was telling you about, the 61-year-old lady, she's actually a psychologist, and she had this amazing stress mechanism that she used because she was dealing with all of her patients who were absolutely freaking out during the pandemic. And we took that methodology and applied it to the rest of our candidates, and the results were really fantastic. So the next thing that happened was we had the next phase. So we've gone through phase 1. We've had a number of candidates go through. We've had an 85% resumption in menstrual cycle. We've had a 61-year-old lady, a different person, have a child naturally. We've had an average age of 52 years old where women are with a 13% pregnancy rate, which is phenomenal considering that nature is about 24% or 25%, depending. And IVF is about 10% and significantly can damage your body in the long term. So our next phase is to take this technology that we put together and apply this to skin. Because as I said at the beginning, skin and ovaries and testes or reproductive organs are very similar functionality. So we've developed the application of Rejuvenation onto the skin to get rid of lines here, to improve the barrier. It's the first barrier to infection, and also makes you look more youthful, which is obviously an aesthetic. And again, this backs down to Freudenspanne, which is how you're treated. How you look is how you're treated. How you're treated is how you're perceived, and how you perceive yourself affects how you react with others. And it's a constant cycle. And then the next part of it is the regulatory and liability issues, because some of you, I'm sure, in the audience are medical professionals, and you know full well the difficulty that we have going through the FDA approval. There is a big conflict of interest between big pharma and patients, and also new technologies. And the issues that we have is we had one of the reasons our first clinic in Austin, Texas, the surgeons actually said, this is fantastic, but we're never going to get liability coverage. So we had the IRB passed, and we went from a university into a commercial environment, and it was very, very difficult to do. So we've had to take clinics and take them into Mexico. We have one in Mexico. We have one in Europe, of course, because that's where it came from. But we obviously want to get this into the United States because this makes sense. There's 75 million women in the United States that would be eligible for this. So the future. And in the future, what are we going to do about this? Well, we want to, as you said, we want to maximize this protocol. It's very important. At the moment, we only have an 85% success rate. As far as we're concerned, that's not good enough. It has to be 100%. But 85 is a pretty good start. And the thing about it is that by maximizing this protocol, we realize that because it's a natural occurring development, in other words, it's not using drugs. You don't take external bodies and put it into yourself. You're taking your own body and reigniting the endocrine system, relearning, teaching your body to keep it within that balance of where you want to be, of that peak of fertility and vitality and youthfulness, which approximately is between the ages of 20 to 50. I mean, that's an approximate age grouping, but in that area of that gives you the benefits of the bone density and so on and so forth. Because we're designed to live 125 years, let's maximize that. We want to improve the success rate, as we said. But the last bit is we want to get this liability coverage sorted out so that we could have this becoming nationwide in the United States. Because when you think about it, this should be part of an insurance plan. If you're going to live fully fit and functional, and you could live and have the physicality of a fit 37 to 40-year-old at the age of 90 years old, would that not stand to reason that your insurance premiums should go down? That also the fact that this should be part of a protocol, an interventionist protocol, so that therefore you can maintain less sort of stress on society as we age and we become more useful members of society. You know, your life doesn't end when you're 62 years old, which was the original age for Social Security. I mean, some people are still going strong at 62 years old, 82 years old, you know, maybe even 100 soon. So that's really where we want to be. And that's exactly where we believe we can make it happen. So the successes we've had to date have been fantastic. As I said, a 61-year-old woman reversed menopause, 4 years. Another 61-year-old had a child, admittedly with another egg, but her own egg started to improve. Now she wants to have a second child. Carried it for full term. We also have women who are now starting to do physical activity that they've never done before because their bodies have rejuvenated themselves to the point that we have 55-year-old women who are saying they look like they're in their late 30s, and they've had the energy of someone in their late 30s and the functionality as well as all the benefits that you have of that fertility boost and vitality. So that's pretty much it. And I'd love to ask answer any questions that people may have in the audience.
I'm calling Zack right now. You can hear me on the phone, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, so who has a question for Zack? Anybody? Okay. What is the cost of the treatment, Zack? The cost of the treatment.
Great question. The cost of the treatment varies between 3,000 and 20,000, depending on what level of the treatment you're doing. But eventually it would be around about 20,000, and it would last for 3.5 years.
And who do you think is most interested in this kind of treatment?
Well, obviously women who want to have children, and certainly at a later age, either for the first time. The sweet spot of age will be between 38 to 48. However, there's also a very large area of women that would realize that the benefits of being fertility fit would allow you to have the vitality you had at 40 when you're 80 years old. I mean, our head of customer relations is in her 60s and really has the energy of someone who's in their mid to late 30s. I mean, it's quite incredible. I mean, yes, she's an accessible human being, but she's still human. We're still human beings. So the market would be for women between the ages of 35 and upwards. And the thing is also, you have to really look at it that it's very much a case of doing it for keeping the maximum extent of life, quality of life, until you're into your 100 years, century year old.
How do they contact you?
Great. I will send my email. You can go to austinbiotec.com and you can fill out a application, and then one of our team members will contact you, either myself or the other co-founder, Deborah Phillips, who is another scientist, or our medical team. I can put the connections at the end. Nope. And the reason for that, so that's a very quick no. I was quite pleased about that no. But the reason why about that is because we do a lot of qualification screening up front. And so if you, for instance, have cancer markers, we are not going to put you into this procedure. We can't stop you because it's your choice, but obviously we'll give you very clear warnings. Look, don't do this because you're going to get increasing cancer, or don't do that because this will happen. But the thing about what we do is it's very bespoke. We do the blood work, we do the analysis, and we can check things out. I mean, one of the things we learned, for instance, is that, prime example, if someone comes to us and they're super fit, they're vegan, they run marathons, they eat certain types of food, we can always guarantee you they're going to have a high cholesterol level, and we know how to manage it because of this understanding. So because of this bespoke level of understanding, we make sure that things like endocrine problems don't happen because we headed off at the pass beforehand.
Yep. What about if they have active cancer?
Not really. How active is the cancer and where is it?
Breast cancer.
Well, breast cancer, no, we wouldn't recommend it. We would have to go on a case by case by that. But the thing is that, remember, we're igniting your reproductive systems. Breast cancer is a reproductive organ. It is also still the most deadly cancer. So we would probably recommend against it, but I can cross-reference on that. We haven't had anyone come to us with breast cancer, so we'd have to check that one out.